Hi, I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Vinland Saga Season 1, Episode 22. Last episode was a big one, and it was an emotional one. We were reunited with Leif. A stand-in for Canute was killed, and Bjorn was also killed.
Mm-hmm.
Very heavy, but it leaves room for this episode to breathe.
For Thorfinn?
Yeah.
For Thorfinn's duel?
I guess.
Possibly, we guess. I mean, Askeladd said that he was ready to play with Thorfinn, so...
Yeah, I like the language there. I wonder what Thorfinn will learn, if anything, throughout this duel. That's kind of where I'm at.
How does it feel to duel Askeladd right after watching what he just did?
Yeah. I don't know. What's Askeladd's temperament going to be like? Is he going to play games, or is he going to, just go for it?
Take it maybe more seriously, more head-on?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited.
I'm a little nervous.
I'm so excited.
But I'm excited.
I'm excited.
Cool.
Ready?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I love the sound of the wind.
I like the piano. I'm going to get ready.
Are we going to... We're going to see it again?
Oh my god. Oh, again.
Flicking the blood off.
You see the aura? It's like when he was in front of the king. You know what that tells me? Them replaying that, they want us to have that tone fresh in mind for this fight in this episode. I don't know if that makes me more nervous and uneasy or excited, and probably a little bit of both.
I think what it does to me is brings up every time that Thorfinn has been out of it mentally or emotionally during a duel because of bringing up of emotional topics like his father, Thor's, that what does what happened just now do to the mental state of both of these people as they are about to fight?
Good question.
Lone wolf. Thorfinn, the wolf. Is Askeladd alone now? Now that his only friend is dead?
Oh my god.
His aura. It's like a three-way duel right now.
Very true. Thorfinn's injured. Oh!
This is like Thor's! And Thor's was only punching everyone! So Thorkel doesn't know that Askeladd killed Thor's?
Oh.
やめろ。片手でこの俺に勝てると思ったか。クソ気分のいい日だぜ。やめろ。もうよせ。気絶している。本当に止めやがんの。トルフィン。おい、トルフィン。決闘はもう終わったぞ。そなたの負けだ。よせ。もう終わりだ。てめえ。気を失ったのだ。すでにとどめを刺されている。右腕が治ってからまたやり直せ。治っても同じですよ。怪我のせいじゃねえ。バカはバカだから負ける。
It's a great line.
考えて戦うようになってきちゃい。
It all goes out the window though for Askeladd.
頭に血が上ったら全部台無し。筋を狙ってるのが目線で丸分かり。すぐにぶち切れてでけえ声出し振り回すのはバカの戦だ。あったく。
I love the lighting on Askeladd. There's no beauty in it. Oh.
俺は戦士ってのは大嫌いだ。ノルド戦士。バイキングは特にな。初めて殺した相手もノルド戦士だとしくない男だったぜ。
It's like he's on a throne right now. Like he's a king.
The score.
俺の親父だ。
Holy shit.
小僧。工学のために教えてやろう。憎い相手の。
How to kill someone you hate.
ガタ来てんな。俺は奴隷の母親から生まれた。これは病気で働くことができなかった。でも物心つく頃には下働きだった。
It's probably why his chops are so good. He could go through that guy's whole body.
ついたあだ名がアシェラッド。灰まみれって意味だ。
Covered in ash. Remember, tell me what your real name is, not your nickname.
The animation's amazing.
酒と女と殺す。
Wow.
まあ
The
お前もいる
similarities.
ようなバイキングだ。あちこちの女に産ませてたらしいが、年長の子供たちだけだった。
But he only named the ones with his legal wife.
顔も覚えちゃいなかった。おふくろは若い頃、親父のお気に入りの奴隷だったそう。終えてからは犬と同じ扱い。生きることが辛いのは俺にとっちゃ当たり前のことをやら。おふくろは違った。先祖の英雄アルトリウスの話をして、話を何度もした。侵入からおふくろの故郷を守った将軍の伝説。これは英雄復活の伝説を信じていた。気分から解き放ってくれるものの再来をな。繰り返すもんだからよ。俺も信じるようになった。遥か西の彼方、ことのできない彼岸の地に英雄アルトリウスの住むラクドが不老不死が約束された。英雄はそこで戦の傷を癒しているらしい。彼は万軍を従えきて蛮族どもを注し、この世を平定してくださる。一族はそれを待ち続け、待ちに待って500年。まだ現れない。
The darkness of his actual expression on his face.
もし本当にご先祖様がいいところに暮らしてるならよ。でこんな世界に帰ってくるわけやね。
This piano is extraordinary.
俺が11の時、ついにおふくろの心が折れた。通りかかった親父のことを英雄アルトリウスと勘違い。
Jesus.
一瞬で悟った。アルトリウスがおふくろを助けに来ないのなら永遠に来ないのだと。ネバが
Someone must do
で
it.
も神でもね。
A person.
誰かがな。
And not a god.
Jesus.
不思議なもんだ。剣は俺の手によく馴染んだが分かっていた。目の前のクソ野郎の血が流れている証拠だと涙が出るぜ。
He's like Thorfinn there.
その女の子か、わしの子か。
そうです。
見込みがある。今日から館に住め。11歳のガキにやれる相手とは思って、まずは親父の目に留まること。抵抗だ。 でも怠らなかった。兄貴たちともうまくやってた。
Put on the perfect play.
救ってくれた恩を決して忘れない忠実な。身も身内もすっかり俺を親父の子として受け入れるように。この作業に。
I worked on it for 2 years. I love the language.
狙いは2つ。遺産の相続権だ。お前らにも見せてやりたかったよ。なぜってつら。使ったのは兄貴の剣だ。親父と仲の悪い奴から選んで盗んだ。
Holy shit.
たちは犯人と思い込んでリンチにかけちまえんの。全く単純な奴らだぜ。バカで不潔で。
Stupid and
てめえの欲
filthy.
望以外に何もねえ。
Their own greed.
そこら中から湧いて出てきて幅を利かせやがる。いくらぶち殺してもキリがねえ。アルトリウスでもラグナロクでもこの審判でも何でもいいからよ。来るなら急いでもらいたいもんだぜ。そん時は俺も生きちゃいられねえだろうがな。長くなったら要するにだ。トルフィー、10年以上かけて俺一人倒せないお前はボンクラだって話さ。
うるせえ。俺は何があってもてめえを殺す。絶対
They're still just yelling.
たく言ってるそばからそれかよ。メティエに餌に釣られて駆け回りやがって。おめえの働きにはマジで頭が下がるよ。みてえな決闘に付き合ってやるだけでポルケルにまでホイホイ挑んでいくんだもんな。稲垣だよお前は。
I love the off-angle shots. They're so dynamic.
まったく感謝しねえとな。
今は傷を癒せ。よさぬか。
はあ、情けねえ。やれやれ。すっかり硬くなっちまったら。
私なのだ。末はそなたであろう、アジラット。才気もある。神が王となり世を変えようとは思わぬのか。
冗談でしょ。話聞いてなかったんですか。あなたの方が王にふさわしい。スベン王よりもね。顔見りゃわかります。ただのバイキングですよ。
Like he said, the hero would probably kill him too.
What a shot.
Nice.
Okay, that was Vinland Saga, Season 1, Episode 22. I really didn't want that to end. I'm kind of just in that place of just wanting to continue, binging it or watching it. I don't know if I have any wants out of Thorfinn, because I think that like instinctually I'm like I feel, oh, I want you to be able to acknowledge what the rage is and grow and use what Askeladd's experience and willingness to tell you his stories, use that to improve not just physically but emotionally. And I want that for Thorfinn on one hand, but on another, the way that they got us here narratively, it has been done by doing something that's so far out of any expectations or any of my guesses and what they would be. So I want them to continue to go that route, but in terms of like Thorfinn as a character, that I don't know if I've ever seen him. I'm gonna call it reflect like he did at the end of this battle, and it makes me wonder, is there change now for him?
I trust in the writing of Thorfinn because there hasn't been a moment yet where I have felt like it hasn't been that something has happened at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost feel like as the viewer here, that if Thorfinn had actually really processed or retained what Askeladd said in his story in this episode, I don't know. I'm so glad that he went right back to yelling at Askeladd as Askeladd was walking away, and he was like,
too.
you haven't listened and you don't get it. And in like a same but like lesser example, Canute also did kind of miss something out of the story, and maybe was missing what was aimed at him in the story, because that story really was for both of the people listening. That's like why I love thinking about dialogue so much, is because it's like the word choice that someone says, but also who's in the room and who's hearing it. Like all of that is so purposeful. And I'm really happy as a viewer that Thorfinn didn't just immediately have this like big understanding moment here from hearing this flashback story from Askeladd. Like it would have felt kind of like, oh wow, okay, that's pretty sudden for him to just hear words from Askeladd and be like, yeah, okay, I get you.
I completely agree, and I think that that's what I was trying to get at. I think that the change there, the importance, the important thing that Thorfinn did in that moment was listen and not interrupt the story. But he
was definitely listening. Like any any shot that we got of once we see Canute and Thorfinn during Askeladd's words, they both were very enamored and very concentrated on what Askeladd was saying.
Well, it's an acknowledgement of Askeladd's strength and intelligence, but in order to, I think it lends itself to the character writing, but in order to change as a real person would in this situation, you're not changing how you fight. You're changing your entire sense of self. You'd have to change the way that your brain operates and how you think about situations, because it's further than impulse control, right? It's having impulse control and then choosing to go the extra mile with it. And it seems like that is something that's been innate for Askeladd since he was born, because sure, he reacted in the moment as he should have to protect his mother, but by the end of that duel, he had already had his plan set in stone, and that's just who Askeladd was based off of his lineage. He saw the opportunity.
He saw what he could create, a useful option here. Like when he saw Thorfinn, he saw a useful kid thanks to Thor's, and was able to use not only Thorfinn but all of those other Vikings that he's led over the years. He was able to put on an act and take every opportunity he could get and use Ragnar to create what he wanted from Canute, or what he hoped he could get from Canute. He has always been a little bit like, how can I get the edge up in this situation? How can I be the one that ends up on top? And he's thinking about it. And Thorfinn is still just stuck in yelling things and being very in his heart about his feelings instead of his brain. Like he's still stuck in the feelings. And it's really great because Askeladd purposefully brings up how long it's been that Thorfinn has continuously been the same for the last 10 years.
And it's so, as a person, as a character, it would be so difficult for somebody like Thorfinn to ever change how he's been for the last 10 years during those 10 years, because what are you doing? You're admitting that some of that, if not most of those 10 years was wasted or spent thinking the wrong way, or you're saying, you're acknowledging that, oh shit, I'm not right, you're right, I shouldn't have gone about it that way. And when it's over something as important as the loss of his father and avenging his father, that cannot be something simple to do.
Which is obviously why we get the emotional reaction from him at the very end of the episode. I think that everything that Askeladd said at the end of the episode was exactly what, as a viewer, me hearing it, I would feel like Thorfinn would need to hear in order to change at all.
I agree with that.
That telling him, like, I've been utilizing you. You've been doing whatever I have asked you to do, and you've gone and fought Thorkel. Like, that's a great example of something, like, incredibly dangerous and incredibly stupid to go do because someone else told you to do, but you've been doing it. You've been acting like a dog for 10 years. And I think that, like, putting into Thorfinn's face, like, this idea of you're not this big, bad, brave warrior, or really is a dog is a dog an example of a warrior in how you're acting? Just savage, and then a dog, you'll do what people say.
Exactly.
And so maybe that is what a warrior is what Askeladd's saying. So he's kind of like both knocking Thorfinn down, but also knocking Thorfinn's idea, or maybe all of the Vikings' ideas of what a warrior is.
I love that Askeladd brought up that it felt like Thorfinn was a dog after food in terms of him reacting the way that he did, because I don't think that for a second that Askeladd just meant it in that vein of the conversation. It's obedience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, using a treat, right? Using a treat of a duel is enough to get him to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the realization of that must be impossible to go through.
The dynamic is so interesting that someone you hate, that you want to kill, is able to tell you to do anything and you will obey.
Yep.
And that is how Askeladd acted in order to get close to his father. He did whatever his father would view as positive, whatever would get his father's attention, whatever would get his father's trust. He was purposefully acting in a way that was a dog, that was getting any little praise, doing what this person wanted, obeying them. But Thorfinn is only doing it to keep close to the prize so he can have another chance of a duel. But there's a different amount of thinking that's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting creating this parallel with them in this episode to give us such like a lovely compare contrast here, because like while there's similarities, there's also incredible differences, because as characters they have been written as different people.
I think that it goes again to show like the writing and my lack of ideas of what they're going to do going forward. Is this what it would take for Thorfinn to bite his tongue and go with Leif for a while? Because like it's so easy for me to narratively think that would be the consequence, but I don't know if that's Thorfinn. I don't know if he's there. I don't know it. Like I don't know what. Like, because like ideally, right? If you do want to beat Askeladd and kill him and avenge your father, then I don't think it would be very difficult for me to believe that a change that significant could happen overnight and not come with a long period of time spent bettering yourself and understanding battle and your own person and a way to think.
Yes. I think that if I were to talk on maybe some foreshadowing that we're getting of what could be at least Thorfinn and Canute, both of those characters, how they might act going forward after this episode, I'm going to bring up the line, "I'm going to teach you how to kill someone you hate." Both of these characters, Canute and Thorfinn, are plotting on how to defeat someone that they hate, someone that they think the world would be better without, they despise, they want to kill for vengeance.
Yeah.
Different reasons, both of them. And in this episode, if we're gonna, Canute's over here, Thorfinn's over here, if we're gonna go over into talking about Canute, he has a line at the end of the episode being like, "Askeladd, why aren't you trying to be king?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously you have all of this brain that's able to like think and be faster than others and outwit others. And even King Swen, he gets one on King Swen multiple times, puts a curse on the town. Like, why aren't you wanting to be king? And so what we're setting up here is Canute, as both of them were listening to this talk and now we're leaving that talk, is setting himself up for, I'm going to pay more attention to this man.
Yeah.
Because he's saying that I have the potential to be best suited to be king, but he has things and attributes that I need to have in order to ensure that I can be king someday. I need to be able to outwit others. I need to be able to, like, he's going to be watching who he believes should be or could have been trying to be king.
Yeah.
And so then if we move over into Thorfinn, he's now going to also possibly, in terms of theorizing based on foreshadowing, be possibly moving more into the observer category as well. An observer of Askeladd, someone who said, I'm going to teach you how to kill someone you hate. If he starts watching someone who he knows has killed someone that he hated, that could be a way, that could be foreshadowing that both of them were there for that conversation. Now both of them will be watching and observing Askeladd further, maybe deeper, trying to understand him and trying to figure out how they can become stronger themselves.
So if you were to think about what's next for Thorfinn, you would put it in the drop of he's going to stay with Askeladd for a while and try to observe and learn and grow.
I think I would put it in he's going to shut his mouth a little bit, especially after he kind of gets called out on it at the end of the episode of you're doing it again.
Yeah.
I think he's going to shut his mouth a little bit, and he's going to actually try to observe something or get something from this. Because Askeladd says, you've been a useful kid to me, but has Thorfinn ever thought of Askeladd being useful to him? Has he ever tried to make use of his connection with Askeladd? Has he ever tried to learn from Askeladd, actually consciously learn from Askeladd?
Just the way that the only reason I even bring up him going back with Leif is one, of course, Leif's reintroduced to us last few episodes, but also that ending montage of going back chronologically into the beginning of the series of when he's younger. It almost gives me a foreshadowing potentially of going back to your roots or reevaluating how you got here and trying to figure out what your next step needs to be.
See, I could go in that direction, and then I would probably also raise you something to kind of compete with that, which would be Thorkel and Canute having a sidebar conversation of, we don't even know what this duel's about.
True.
Bringing up that there is something really heavy that has been happening for the last 10 years inside Thorfinn's heart, a reason that he has been doing this, a reason that he's been following. And I think you're right to bring up that all of this mention in this episode of there has been a reason for 10 years now.
Yeah.
Will he ever win? Is a great moment to kind of debate. Is he going to leave with Leif now that we know that that's an option? I think that I couldn't see the character necessarily choosing to do that.
Yeah.
But I think that it's really great to give us this kind of debate energy in the episode, knowing that Leif is available.
So it's so interesting if you try to think for a second, if Thorfinn's character did take steps to change and grow in a similar way that Askeladd has been, or the stories that he has told. Think about all of the different scenarios that could come of that. Because what Thorfinn has, and I understand, been doing is very one-dimensional, right? And I think that seems to be a theme from Askeladd's perspective of the Vikings, right? They're so simple-minded. And if you're going to say that that's simple-minded, and then you try to flip Thorfinn's character on its head, what questions will you start asking? Yeah, Askeladd did kill my father. Why? Who told you to kill him? Somebody told you to kill him? Floki? What?
Right.
It could go up a chain,
It's really interesting because, Thorfinn was a child at the time of Thor's dying. So, obviously, as anyone, is seeing who is directly doing the killing. But it's great to bring up the possibility that if he took a step back and was curious or asked more questions, how would he end up feeling? If he learned a little bit more about learning more about Askeladd, but also maybe learning more about how King Sven actually possibly affected Thor's death.
Yeah.
Because Floki was the one that went, and Floki works for King Sven. That maybe he has a common enemy to Canute. That's a cool direction to go into.
Yeah.
I really like that idea of Thorfinn has never really thought past the actual person that told the arrows to shoot, which he doesn't necessarily need to. That is the person that made the final decision
For
in
sure.
that moment.
And it's based on his age, but also the culture that that would make sense, and what he's doing makes sense in a certain light. But it's just another piece of evidence to show, like, this show could go in any direction, because if you're, it doesn't really make too much sense that this guy Askeladd and his crew would set up for you could make an argument that it makes sense, but for a character like Thor's, and it seeming from the language that Askeladd was using at the time, like they were looking for Thor's and identifying him as who he was, you could connect those dots.
And a good another evidence of like possibly going in that direction of finding out more about the actual searching for Thor's and the bounty on his head is from Thorkel not knowing why Thorfinn is trying to fight Askeladd.
True.
That is a great kind of possible foreshadowing that more discussion and more learning about that day in itself could be coming to pass.
One of my favorite moments, I think my favorite moment of the episode, was Askeladd's father being like surprised, why, upon his death, and Askeladd's reaction to it, like, you dare to question, like, that's such a dumb question to ask, like thinking that it's all water under the bridge and everything. These past years haven't been a facade to get closer. Those laughs weren't half, if not more, fake just to get closer so I can have this opportune moment. Askeladd has to be my favorite character in the show. He is absolutely wonderful.
I agree. I honestly, going forward, I'm still just so curious what's going to actually happen with Thorfinn emotionally and mentally in terms of his revenge plot. What would it actually take for him to drop that, and would he be happy if he actually obtained it? I think that more and more those feelings and that excitement over finding out how that's handled are growing.
I love the consistency in Askeladd's writing and in his delivery. Like, from the first duel, we've identified the twisting of the knife in Thor's name in battle with Thorfinn. And he's right. Nothing's changed. And I just love that it's been such a through line. And because of that being a through line, we get the idea of their duels in general being extremely predictable or easy for Askeladd to be able to break down.
Right. I mean, that great to bring that up, because yes, Thorfinn has done amazing things in battle, of course, ordered to do so by Askeladd. But if we think back to his fight with Thorkel, yes, that was impressive. And Canute, brings up, didn't Thorfinn beat you in a duel? Askeladd helped. Thorfinn would not have won that if Askeladd didn't give him some tips and shine that sword in Thorkel's eyes.
Yep.
Thorfinn probably, if he is thinking so simply, he's just seeing I've gotten stronger, but he's not thinking the next step of why or how have I gotten stronger, and who is aiding in that getting stronger, and am I still reliant on that person in order to get stronger?
Yeah. Just the ability to learn to ask questions, I think I've said it a couple times, I feel like the show has shined lights on certain things that I might have overlooked in terms of just interpersonal relationships and thematic connections, father son, right? But one thing that I always try to incorporate in my life for a long time now is just ask questions. That's one of the most important things you can do. Be more curious.
Mm-hmm.
I love the show. I didn't want this episode to end. I can't wait to see what happens next.
I am also excited to see what happens next.
You good?
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.